Hello viewers, welcome to the Ink Warfare channel. Today I'm going to be inking a drawing that I did of the G.I. Joe character Blowtorch, otherwise known as Timothy Hanrahan. He is an expert with the M7 flamethrower. To pencil this drawing, I used this Rotring pencil with a 2H lead. And to do my layouts, I used this Color Ace pencil. It's a Color Ace blue, not the light blue or non-photo blue. The non-photo blue doesn't show up very well, so I don't really care for it. I need to be able to see my lines a little better. For inking, I'm going to start out with this Faber-Castell Pitt pen. This is a 0.3, and I'm just going to go around and start an outline. I should probably discuss a little bit about the light source. So he's standing in some flames, and there's going to be some light coming off the flamethrower as well. So it's a little bit tricky lighting the armor, trying to create the lighting for the armor from memory, because I didn't really have a proper reference for this drawing. So I did overwork the paper a little bit, just trying to come up with what I wanted and what I felt comfortable with pencil wise. I think instead of the 0.3, I'm going to start out with a Faber-Castell Pitt small, or S, instead of the 0.3. And I'm just going to outline my pencils to start. Now I have the weapon, so that does come in handy. You can use this if you're drawing like an action figure like this, or have some kind of reference. It does help you. You can actually hold that. I've done that in other videos. You can actually hold that little, his little flamethrower or rifle or whatever it is, and kind of get an idea of how accurate your drawing is against the little plastic toy flamethrower. It also helps with the lighting. I mean, you can actually take that little flamethrower and light it, just to see how the lighting would fall on it. Artists have been known to create like small references, like dolls with costumes on them, with proper lighting to get their reference for how the light falls on clothing and things like that, and different objects. Instead of, if you don't have a live person or a live model, that can come in handy. Now, when I was laying this out in pencils, I was kind of thinking about the armor as if it was something similar to like football padding or something like that, kind of a dull finish instead of like something that's glossy. I'm not sure if when they were designing this figure, if there was a real life instance, like some kind of firefighting armor that was used or still used at the time. I'm not sure. I've never seen anything like this armor. I'm not sure what the little ports are on the round ports on the armor are supposed to represent. Maybe if you're watching this video and you can enlighten me. Now, this little respirator box is kind of an awkward design detail. All the panels on it don't quite line up with one another, and it kind of sets on an angle on the action figure, with a couple of bands that come up off the top of it around the shoulder. Now, with the fabric of the costume, I was kind of thinking something all along the lines of like almost like a parachute pant material, something glossy. I guess I could have gone the route with something more like a fire hose type material, but a fire hose type material wouldn't have as much like folds and in the fabric and bunches. It would tend to have like bigger bunches and less line work there. Whereas what I was going for, there's a lot of folds in the fabric as it bunches up. So it'd be like some kind of flame retardant. Like I said, like parachute pant or material. If any of you grew up in the 80s or 90s, remember parachute pants. Now I'm using the circle tool to lay out these ports. I'm just offsetting the inner circle there a little bit to give that illusion of not quite, the inner circle is going to be offset because we're not quite looking straight down at the port. So you want to offset the center line or the center circle, and then I added that other line there to show the inside wall of the port. Later on, I'll add some shadow to that. So right now I'm going to start getting into some rendering. And there'd be clear glass on the face mask there, and with the bright light of the blowtorch you would be able to, I made it so that you could see through the glass and see some of it, his eyes and nose in there. Now the back of this helmet's going to be kind of, that's going to be like the upper rear part of him is going to be the portion of him that's most in shadow. So I'm going to try to darken that up quite a bit. Even though this helmet is, like from a value standpoint, it's a yellow helmet and yellow mask, so the red portion of the armor should come through as a little darker, except for down on the legs there where he's really standing in the flames. I left that kind of light in value just because the flames are going to be, it's just there's going to be a lot of light reflecting off that armor and lighting it up, so it's going to tend to be brighter hypothetically with the flames. Now right here I'm using a brush pen that let's see, I can never remember the name of it. It's a Bimoji brush pen. Kuretake Bimoji pen. It's a pretty good little pen. Here I'm using a Tombow marker, the blue one. I've said in other videos I'm not really a big fan of the black one. I like the blue one, it's a little stiffer. I did just buy a Pitt marker that's fairly similar to the Tombow, and I'll probably use that in the next video. I haven't broken that out yet. We'll see how it compares to the Tombow. Like this Tombow pen is Tombow Fudeno Senki pen. I think I just butchered that name, but it's a really versatile ink pen because you can lay down thick lines and thin, as long as the point stays. Like a brand new one is super has a nice fine point on it. As you start to use it, the tip does dull up a little bit, but you can still get nice fine lines out of it, but not quite as what you could get out of a brand new one. But I highly recommend them. I think you can get these at Michael's, or I don't know what kind of art store would be in your area. Like in my area, Michael's is a big arts and crafts chain. I try to use stuff that I can go down to the store and buy if I need it, and not have to wait, not order it online or anything like that. Something that's readily available. Like I like to do oil painting when I can, but it's for me it's super time consuming. But I've gotten to the point where all I use is a limited palette of red, yellow, blue, with some different like burnt umber, raw umber, and then some white. And I tend to just use a limited palette because I know I can mix the colors. It's a good idea to know how to mix your colors rather than just grabbing a tube and squeezing the tube out and using that color straight out of the tube. And then you know with those primary colors and stuff, you can always get them. If you're really dependent on some obscure tube of paint, you might have problems if you're trying to find it, and like say you run out and your local art store doesn't have it. So the same thing with these markers. I'd like to use something that I can get my hands on right away. Like the micron pens are the same thing. You can get microns almost anywhere. I think they even have microns at Walmart now. Not individually, like not at least at my Walmart, they're not individually, but you can buy them in a bulk pack, or a pack of 4 or 5. If there's some ink pen or ink marker or anything like that, or brush pen, that if you're watching this and you found something that you really like to use, I'd be interested to know. I might try it out, so let me know in the comments. It'd be nice to know what other people are using. I've kind of come to a point where I really could do a drawing, like an inking like this of a drawing, solely with the Tombow pen, and I like the extra small pit pen there. It's a 0.1. I could probably do this whole thing with those two. It does help to have the brush pen or some kind of wider pen to do your like broad fills of like blacks if you need to fill a large space. And I've tried several. I don't really care. Like I like the Faber-Castell pens, but pit pens, but I don't like their brush pen. Didn't really last very long for me, and it dried out. And the same thing with well, I bought a Prismacolor one. I didn't really care for that one. Sorry, Prismacolor. You know what I did buy? I bought the real heavy, the thick Faber-Castell marker brush. That works all right, but it's not as good as your Pentel brush pens or that Bimoji brush pen. One thing you can do with your brush pens too is if you have a large space that you need to black out and the tip isn't the greatest, I mean, you can go back around with a finer pen and do your edges. Like you can just fill in like a big portion of it with some other pen that you don't quite care for but you want to use up, and then just go in with your Tombow pen or one of your microns or your pit pens, and just do the edges, the edge details. Now this flamethrower, most of your light's coming from the tip of it, so like it's gonna cast a shadow on on the barrel a little bit and the muzzle, especially where it tapers down there. This shoulder pad, or not shoulder pad, like bicep protector, I really struggled with that a little bit. As you're gonna see later in the video, I just couldn't let it go, and I did go back in with a Posca marker and correct it. Now, if you're watching this video for the first time, or you've watched any of my other videos, I hope you don't find the music too annoying. I've been making the soundtracks myself on using GarageBand, and just something simple that's a few measures, few bars that I can loop, that kind of fills the background space. So yeah, those are my quote-unquote compositions. But I did just figure out how to connect my electric guitar to the tablet, so maybe in the next video I'll have some actual instruments instead of like a faux instruments that are on GarageBand. But I really haven't used much of GarageBand that much, but I'm kind of having fun tooling around with it. And that way I don't have to pay for copyrighted music, or have to worry about my video being taken down because I'm using somebody else's music. Hopefully I don't know, we'll see. I haven't had an issue yet. I'm trying to decide whether I'm gonna, you can probably see in faint pencil that whoosh up by the flamethrower, whether I'm gonna throw that in the end. In my last video I added the boom behind Bazooka. I'm really not sure how I feel about it. I think maybe I should have had the boom a little higher up so it it's less distracting on a silhouette. So you have to wait till the end of the video to see whether I left the whoosh in there and I inked it. I have this in the actual footage fast forwarded and faded here. This video I kind of added a few more fades, like jump ahead a little bit. I know people might just fast forward to the end to see the end result and stuff, but if you're watching, I appreciate it. If you like this video, please click the like button or subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to put out content regularly. It might not always be a video like this of drawing a G.I. Joe guy. I do have plans for some other videos, somewhat along the lines of art instruction. I also, on my website, Ink Warfare, I have these trading cards that I make, so I'd probably make some videos about future ones that I'm going to end up creating. I do have one penciled right now that I need to ink, and I'll probably make a few videos out of that. So, like I said, if you like what you're seeing in the least bit, please subscribe or like the video. Check out my website, inkwarfare.com. I'm also on Instagram at ink.warfare. Ink Warfare was taken, so on Instagram I'm ink.warfare. I am currently not on Facebook or any other social platform other than YouTube here. That could change in the future, but right now that's enough for me to try to keep track of. Now, I really enjoyed rendering these guards that are on his thighs. I feathered it in as if, you know, there's light being reflected from all sides from the flames that he's standing in. And like I said earlier in the video, they are going to be, even though they're should be a darker value than the pants, they are going to be brighter, so the values are kind of going to more equalize in this imaginary setting, you know, where he's standing in just amongst this fire where he's, I don't even know I didn't really think much about, maybe he's, you know, like blowtorching a bunch of Cobra hiss tanks or something, and he's standing in the midst of it. So that's why I top lit these put the shadows on the top of these ports rather than the bottom, to kind of give that effect of uplighting. You know, just like if you were to hold a flashlight under your face, you know, like the spooky effect of holding the flashlight under your face and scaring somebody. That's, you know, the lighting, some of the brightest light's going to be coming from below them, so that give the same effect. Now there's a little bit of perspective here. You know, we're looking up from like more of a worm's eye view at the character. So the flames, when I get into doing the flames, they're going to kind of follow that perspective line in space. And I just kind of roughed in the perspective. I didn't use a ruler with a vanishing point and stuff like that. I mean, you can do that. That stuff kind of drives me crazy. I will do that at times if necessary, but if I can kind of fake it and not have to lay everything out, that helps keep me interested in the drawing. I don't really care to spend a bunch of time laying out the perspective, which sometimes you have to. Now, I apologize if I jump around a lot on my drawings with my inking here. I kind of just see things I want to do and I jump over to them. And I know that's not as helpful if you're trying to follow what I'm doing here. So just be patient with me here, because jumping around on the drawing, it helps me as far as if I don't go do something that I'm thinking about doing on the drawing, I might not remember to do it later. So when it comes to mind, I might jump over, you know, I might be working on a leg and I'm looking up at the arm and I see something that I want to do to the arm. That's why I'm jumping around, because I might forget, you know. So better to do it, you know, immediately if something comes to mind than not to do it at all because you couldn't remember later what you wanted to do. I mean, I'm staying fairly faithful to my pencils here, but when I go in and ink, I do modify things. Maybe in the pencils, you know, something looks better than it does when you start to lay down inks. You just you have to make some changes, and sometimes that means I'll grab a sketchbook off to the side and work it out. rather than trying to work it out in real time with inks, because it's more difficult to correct it with inks. I mean, it's doable. You can correct things if you don't like something you've inked, but then you've got to put some Posca marker down, or delete, or white out, or whatever, and it makes for a cleaner drawing if that's what you're going for, if you don't have to white anything out, which is almost never the case for me. I always find something that I don't like and I white it out and go over it. But also with when you white something out, you can't really go over it with pencils, like I've found. I mean, because you can't erase the pencils. The penciling is a lot harder to erase that's over, like some of the whiteout. At least the whiteout I use, like the Posca markers. Drawing the corrugation on, his hoses and stuff, that's all kind of can be tedious work. You just got to find a way to make it interesting, because it's worth it to add those little details like the shadows on the hoses and stuff. Same thing with his backpack, not the most interesting thing to draw. I just rendered some cast shadows on it and reflections to kind of keep the illustration interesting, both for whoever might be looking at it and me, myself drawing it. I was still trying to figure out how I was going to render the tip of the flamethrower there, because it has those the ports in it and the muzzle area, and I got to think that you'd probably have some kind of flame spitting out of there or something. I mean, it'd be pressurized, under pressure. So I'm gonna black it out and just leave the ports lighted eventually. If I was coloring this, I might add like a burst there, like a starburst kind of effect. So I'm just going along adding a heavier line to the outline, and that's, I've talked about this in other videos, that is effective. You are, at the end of the day, if you're doing something like this, it's somewhat a cartoon, and you can use outlines, to depict whatever you're trying to depict. Shouldn't be really afraid of that, which I can tend to do that. I want to feather things in more, but a nice heavy line sometimes can be pretty effective. I think of like a lot of tattoo artwork works better, I think, with thicker, heavier line art, and lasts longer actually too. I think your gradient stuff tends to fade more, actually, in the realm of tattoos. But yeah, I mean, it's no like these these thigh guards here. If I took a heavy line and outlined them, I'm sure it'd look fine. Something like this, you have to pick and choose. What you how far you go to reveal the values and stuff, and something like this is also there's an element of line art and line work to it, and that's expected. So I really didn't like the forearm section and that pad on his arm here. So I'm trying to repair it here. I didn't like the angle of the bicep protector there. So I'm gonna let that white out dry and come back to it. So right now I'm going to add like a little fabric seam here where like the fabric of his shirt would be woven together. I like that effect when artists do that. I think Greg Capullo did that with Batman, and I really like that, how he added the seams in his costume. It's pretty effective if you're going for like not even if you're going for like a realism kind of more of a realistic kind of drawing, but I really like it when people do it with gloves too, when they add the seam to gloves and the gloves look a little bulkier. It just looks more true to life. So right now I'm getting down to the, getting close to the end on the drawing here, and I'm just tightening up some things. Not sure what I think of this elbow. I think I'm going to come back and just something about it doesn't look quite right. So I'm going in with my Posca marker here and waiting out this elbow and that bicep pad. I just didn't like the angle. It didn't kind of follow the angle of the arm properly. So it was just kind of stood out to me. I didn't like it. So I'm going to wait for that to dry. I'm going to do a little bit more rendering on the leg guards here. The top of them I'm trying to put a little bit more in shadow, a little darker, because the top of them might be a little bit more hidden from the flames. And here I'm using a bit of cross hatching, just direct cross hatching, like perpendicular lines. Trying to bring out a little bit of reflections in the backpack there. The back of the backpack is going to be the darkest part, but I didn't want to black it out completely. So here I changed the edge of that bicep pad so that it conforms more to the arm. And then on the elbow, I'm just gonna add some bolder lines to emphasize like the folds in the fabric. And I did go grab a shirt that was kind of similar to the material that I imagined he'd be wearing, and I put that on, and I took kind of like a crappy reference photo with my iPad that I could look at while I was doing this. You know, nothing I really want to show anybody. It's just a crappy picture that gave me the details that I wanted, just showed me how the fabric would bunch up around the arm with it at that angle with the arm bent. So it's going to bunch up more inside the elbow than it is at the elbow. At the elbow, there shouldn't really be a whole lot of bunching because the elbow is pushing on out at the fabric, so there shouldn't be a lot of folds near the elbow. That's going to be the tightest point, where the fabric of this shirt is tightest against that elbow. I'm pretty much getting towards the end of this illustration and to the point where I'm comfortable with it. I'm just bouncing around, adding a few details here and there, just to tighten up the drawing. And sometimes you might not have, you're on a deadline, you might not have time to really tighten the drawing up. And you have to decide when you're comfortable with the work and how it looks, because somebody that's viewing your artwork, they have no idea. Like, say you're doing something for money, you're getting paid, you're doing it, you've got a commission. Most observers of your artwork aren't going to know how much you got paid for it. So unfortunately, if you're only getting paid $25, you really want it to look like you got paid $2,500 for your own sake, because someday that might, you might be getting $2,500 because that $25 image looks like a $2,500 image, if you know what I mean, if that makes sense to you. Sometimes you just don't have any choice. If you have a really tight deadline, you have to eventually just say, there's nothing more I can do here. I don't have time to do anything more, and you have to be comfortable with it. And sometimes as an artist, you can take things too far, where you're just overworking an image. I heard an artist say once, just to not over polish the apple. I thought that was a great quote. Don't stop polishing the apple. Like, sometimes we go too far and just keep going and going, and it's unnecessary. Like, I could just keep adding cross-hatching and values and working my values over and over on this, and just keep going, and in the end, really, do I have a better drawing? Sometimes no. Sometimes it's nice to leave things to the viewer's imagination, rather than having to add every little detail. Let their eye fill in the details. I've talked about this in the, I think in my first video, how like artists and a lot of early comic book artists, they're back then they didn't do a lot of rendering like this, my rendering's very liney. I've got a lot of lines, a lot of feathering. You can black something out sometimes, and it's more effective than doing all the cross hatching and adding a lot of transitional values. If you block something out, that can be just as effective. Like a big solid black piece of armor, can look just as realistic as if you spend a lot of time. Sometimes it looks better because you're not adding a lot of clutter to the image with your rendering. So I think I'm to a point where I'm comfortable with this. In my next video, I think I'm going to be inking a drawing of Beachhead. Beachhead is such a cool character, with his balaclava, like his magazines on his vest. He looks like a real special forces operator. I've got to find the rest of his backpack and his rifle. But yeah, I think that's the plan for my next video to be, or one of the next videos to be, an inking of Beachhead. So if you made it this far, thanks for watching. Please subscribe or hit the like button, and check me out at inkwarfare.com.